Assalamualaikum students, I am Urva Tariq and the topic for today's lecture is the comparison between syllabus and curriculum and the things related to these two. Syllabus versus curriculum. Here is a figure that can show the importance of curriculum and syllabus. Number one is subject based curriculum, teacher centered curriculum, learner centered curriculum, and the last one is activity based curriculum. Subject based curriculum, subject matter is the most used and accepted curriculum design. It is also the oldest curriculum design. We see the earlier examples in the medieval era. In the Middle Ages, the monastery and cathedrals and the organizations of the seven liberal arts in the schools of ancient Greece and Rome. Next is teacher-centered curriculum. In teacher-centered curriculum design, the teacher is the center of interest. This type of curriculum emphasizes the involvement of the teacher in the curriculum development. Teacher plays an important role in the development of the student. He or she participates in a number of activities at the classroom level. For instance, they select teaching materials, teaching strategies, use of audiovisual aids, and so on. So, teachers should take interest in any combination of curriculum development, decision making role at the school level. Next is learner based curriculum. The supporters of learner centered curriculum give importance to individual development and they want to organize the curriculum according to the needs and interests of learners. There are fundamental differences in this approach and the subject centered design. Next is activity based curriculum. The activity based curriculum is also called project curriculum or an experience curriculum, but the name activity is a fundamental conception. Activity curriculum has a long history. The title activity curriculum, however, did not come into general use before 1920, although Dewey used the expression activity program as early as 1897 in a talk to the parents and teachers at his laboratory school in Chicago. Activity is the natural urge of the child. He wants to do things by himself. When curricular material is translated in terms of activity, it is known as activity curriculum. On the other hand, syllabuses are more localized and are based on accounts and records of what actually happens at the classroom level as teachers and learners apply a given curriculum to their own situation. It focuses more narrowly on the selection and grading of content. The syllabus is defined as the documents that consists of topics or portion covered in a particular subject. It is determined by the examination board and created by the professors. The professors are responsible for the quality of the course. It is made available to the students by the teachers, either in hard copy or electronic form, to bring their attention towards the subject and take their study seriously. Our syllabus is considered as a guide to the in charge as well as to the students. It helps the students to know about the subject in detail, why it is a part of their course of study, what are the expectations from students, consequences of failure, etc. It contains general rules, policies, instructions, topic covered, assignments, projects, test dates, and so on. You can say that there is a difference between syllabus and curriculum in a sense that syllabus is designed by a teacher for a specific class, for a specific year or semester. On the other hand, a curriculum is designed overall by the institution and by the group of teachers. It is the overall knowledge about the institution, about the studies that are being going in that particular institution, but the syllabus is only about that particular class, that particular semester or year. I am going to tell you some differences between both of these. Number one, the syllabus is described as a summary of the topics covered or units to be taught in the particular subject, while curriculum refers to the overall content taught in an educational system or a course. Syllabus varies from teacher to teacher while curriculum is same for all teachers, as I have told you before that. Syllabus is designed by a particular teacher of that particular class while curriculum is designed by the group of teachers. The term syllabus is a Greek origin, whereas the term curriculum is a Latin origin. The curriculum has a wider scope than the syllabus. The syllabus is provided to the students by the teachers so that they can take an interest in the subject. On the other hand, normally the curriculum is not made available to the students unless specifically asked for. For example, that prospectus, you people are going to take admission in a particular institution, then you ask for a prospectus that has the full-fledged information about that institution, that is the curriculum designed by the institution, and you are going to start your classes with a specific particular teacher, and that teacher designed a syllabus for you people that is going to be studied in that typical particular class. Syllabus is descriptive in nature, but the curriculum is prescriptive. Syllabus is set for a particular subject, unlike a curriculum which covers a particular course of study or a program. Syllabus is prepared by teachers. Conversely, a curriculum is decided by the government or the school or college administration. The duration of a syllabus is for a year only, but curriculum lasts till the completion of the course. So, concluding the comparison between the differences between these two curriculum and syllabus are the terms of education imparted to the students by teachers. It means the knowledge, skills or qualifications that are passed on from one generation to another. A subject syllabus is a unit of curriculum. The two terms differ in a sense that curriculum is a combination of some factors which helps in the planning of an educational program, whereas a syllabus covers. So, guys, moving towards the scope of syllabus design, there are three important views. According to Stern, the first trend is represented by Candlin and Breen, which is called Lancaster School. Represented by Candlin and Breen, this school of thought has strongly reacted against the notion of a fixed syllabus which can be planned, preordained, and imposed on teachers and students. It argued that this school of thought has strongly reacted against. For this group, it is not a choice between structure and functional syllabus. The principle of any fixed inventory of language items, such as the Council of Europe syllabus, is unacceptable to them. They regard the syllabus as open and negotiable. They believe that the curriculum would be negotiated by the teacher and a group of learners. The second direction, represented by Widdowson and Bromfitt, is called London School. According to this school of thought, the Lancaster view is extreme and unrealistic. They are challenged by it. They react against it. They certainly do not accept it as their own. They put forward what they would consider an alternative and more realistic approach. Widdowson believes that a syllabus is necessary, it is economical, and thus it is useful. Like Candlin and Breen, he also likes the idea of freedom for the teacher. Widdowson makes a distinction between syllabus and teaching methodology. He suggests that a syllabus should be structural. It is the methodology that can be communicative. Bromfitt's position is similar to Widdow's idea. Bromfitt argues that a curriculum is public statement serving all kinds of practical purposes. His concern is not the question of freedom and constraint, which has been so dominant in the Lancaster group. He believes that a syllabus must be based on concepts of language, language learning, and language use. Yaldane's formulation is a bridge between the London School viewpoints and is called the Toronto School, which represented by Allen. Again, like Bromfitt, Yalden identifies the theoretical underpinnings
underpinnings of the syllabus content. Yalden proposes that the learner may have an input to make curriculum, but she is not preoccupied with the learner's role in syllabus development. For her, the syllabus is primarily a teacher's statement about objectives and content. As mentioned earlier, Toronto School, which is represented by Allen, is not concerned with question of the learner's role in syllabus development. He accepts the need for a syllabus as unquestioned. The main issue for him is a question of constructing a theoretical sound and practically useful curriculum. So here are some considerations for designing syllabus. So who will use the syllabus? Which areas of student fluency do you most need to focus on? What are the required target levels and will you mention them? How will you organize it? Function, form, theme or topic? How will you organize all this into a coherent, communicable whole? How will you sequence the items? And the last one is, how will you plan for recycling and revision and assessment? So next are the factors that are influencing the design of syllabus according to Tag and Woodward 2011 are common practice or trends, theories of second language acquisition or pedagogy, wider educational context, course objectives, and learner backgrounds. Next are the theories of language acquisition. Number one is the behaviorist theory that was presented by B.F. Skinner. Language is learned through environmental conditioning and imitation of adult models. Skinner proposed that the language is being learned through experiment and through conditioning. He did experiment on rat and pigeon and presented them the bar and locked them into a cage. He did experiment to prove that by imitation and association and conditioning a language can be learned. The second one theory is mentalist or nativist theory that was presented by Chomsky, Noam Chomsky. He said that language is native, natural and innate to human beings. Every child is born with a built-in device for acquiring language. He proposed a device, he named that device language acquisition device. According to Chomsky, language is an innate capacity of human beings. It is not being learned by associating, imitation, conditioning and repetition, but it is being learned by a child's own innate capacity. He argued that B.F. Skinner misunderstood the language, the nature of language, as he compared rats and pigeons with the human beings. There is a big difference between the acquisition of human beings and those of rats and pigeons. The third one is Gresham's monitor model. Acquiring a language is largely subconscious because it stems from natural and informal conversations. The monitor model is an interesting set of hypotheses that were developed by Stephen Gresham in the late 1970s. The model is interesting because some of its premises have been disproved, but during the 80s and 90s the monitor model was adopted by some educational systems, much to their chagrin. However, this is not to say that this theory is unusable for the language educator, but what is taken from the theory and applied to the classroom must be weighted accordingly. The origin of this hypothesis is completely flawed, and science has disproved the basis, but if examined from a different aspect, can be beneficial in instructions. Krashen saw acquisition as subconscious learning that was facilitated by something Chomsky had proposed in universal grammar that he called LAD. I have discussed before. So, although there is no LAD as Krashen had considered when penning this hypothesis, many researchers do note there can be a difference between subconscious learning and conscious learning. Next are the dichotomies of syllabi. So there are two types of syllabi, type A and type B syllabi. White 1988. Type A syllabus. What should be learned in a second language classroom? The emphasis is upon subject and content. Course objectives are decided weeks before. These things are included in type 1, type A syllabus, and the things that are being included in type B syllabus are how a second language should be learned. The emphasis is upon learning process. Course objectives are decided during the course and are based upon the needs of the learner. I will describe these two types in simple wording, as in type A you are going to study how to learn a second language, and in type B you are applying that study in practical. So next are different types of approaches to foreign language syllabus design. The choice of a syllabus is a major decision in language teaching. Several distinct types of language teaching syllabi have been proposed, and these different types may be implemented in various teaching situations. Kranke has proposed 6 types of syllabi as follows. The first one is structural syllabus. A structural syllabus is a kind of syllabus in which the content of language teaching is a collection of the forms and structures, usually grammatical elements such as verbs, nouns, past tense, and so on. The second one is notional or functional syllabus. A notional or functional syllabus is the one in which the content of the language is a collection of the functions that are to be performed when language is used, or of the notions that language is used to express. For example, informing, agreeing, apologizing, requesting, promising, and so on. Third one is situational syllabus. A situational syllabus is one in which the content of language teaching is a collection of real or imaginary situations in which language occurs or is used. For example, seeing the dentist, asking directions in a new town, buying a book in a bookshop. Fourth one is skill-based syllabus. A skill-based syllabus is one in which the content of the language teaching is a collection of
specific abilities that may play a part in using language. Next is content-based syllabus. A content-based syllabus is not really a language teaching syllabus at all. In content-based language teaching, the primary purpose of the instruction is to teach some content or information using the language that the students are also learning. The students are simultaneously language students and students of whatever content is being taught. The subject matter is primary and language learning occurs incidentally to the content learning. An example of content-based language teaching is a science class taught in the language the students need or want to learn. So the last one is task-based syllabus. A task-based syllabus is one in which the content of the teaching is a series of complex and purposeful tasks that the students want or need to perform with the language they are learning. Task-based approaches, syllabi, which create a favorable condition and facilitate language development, is the main focus of this study and are discussed in more details. Here the last one type of foreign language syllabus design, the task-based syllabus, is further explained. The task-based approaches to second language teaching and syllabus. Among the above types of syllabus designed recently, task-based approaches to second language teaching, which focus on the ability to perform a task or activity and not on the explicit teaching of grammatical rules, have been the focus of concern among language researchers and syllabus designers. Historically, task-based approaches to language teaching started in the early 70s and developed throughout 70s. Task-based language teaching base argument for an analytic. There are three kinds of proposals for task-based teaching syllabuses. Number one is the procedural syllabus that was presented by Prabhu in 1987. The second one is the process syllabus presented by Breen 1984 and Breen and Candlin 1980. The third one is the task-based language teaching, Long and Crooks 1992. So while differing from one another in important ways, all three reject linguistic elements such as word, structures, notions, functions and situations as the unit of analysis, and instead they adopt task as the unit of analysis. These approaches are claimed to create more favorable condition for the development of second language ability than does an approach that focuses on the explicit teaching and learning the rules of language alone. Of course, research into the validity of this assumption is still in early stages. As an analytic approach, it differs from the syntactic syllabus in the same way as the procedural and process syllabi, notably in the assumption that the learner learns best when using language to communicate about something. Identifying possible sources of task complexity indeed is a necessary prerequisite for making principled decisions concerning the grading and sequencing of tasks upon which much of the value of the TBLT will rest. Grading and sequencing of pedagogic tasks is indeed a major challenge for the task-based syllabus design. So finally, the main question is, what is the role of the classroom teacher in syllabus design? Noonan in 1993 refers to Bell 1983, who claims that teachers are consumers of other people's syllabuses and their role is to implement the plans of applied linguistics government agencies. While some teachers have a relatively free hand in designing their own syllabuses on which their teaching programs are based, most are, as Bell in 1983 suggests, consumers of other syllabus designers. In line with this, Noonan 1993 agrees with Bell and argues that few teachers are in the position of being able to design their own syllabuses. Again, Noonan in 1987 reports that some teachers believe that syllabus development should be carried out by people with specific expertise. Classroom teachers should be given appropriate training to be equipped with necessary skills and information to design their own syllabuses if they are to be successful teachers. Meanwhile, they should regard the syllabus open and negotiable. Indeed, the syllabus should be negotiated with teachers, by the teachers and their students on the basis of the learner's needs analysis. In sum, we would suggest teachers to follow Stern, who advises that the more we emphasize flexibility and negotiation of the curriculum, the more important it is for us as teachers to have something to negotiate about, and surely as Bromfitt, Widdowson and Yalden have stressed it is important for the teacher to define the parameters to provide direction and to have the resources at our disposal which make up ESL and EFL as learnable and worthwhile subject matter in general education. That was the views of Stern presented in 1984. So further, there are two other types of syllabi, synthetic and analytic syllabi. This was presented by Wilkins in 1976. So synthetic, form-based, segment the target language into discrete linguistic items. Different parts of language are taught separately and step by step. Second one is analytic, that is meaning based, aims at developing learners' communicative competence and focus on the learner and his needs and on the kinds of linguistic performance necessary to achieve these goals. In simple wording, synthetic kind of syllabi is the part of learning where the students learn
And at the analytic part of syllabi, the students analyze that learning they are practically perform the things they learn in the synthetic learning.
So, students, there is a chart of differences between syllabus and curriculum. In sense of meaning, syllabus is the document that contains all the portion of the concepts covered in a subject. On the other hand, curriculum is the overall content taught in an educational system or a course, as we have discussed in all throughout our lecture. In sense of origin, syllabus is a Greek term and curriculum is a Latin term. They set for a subject and curriculum set for a course. The nature of syllabus is descriptive and the nature of curriculum is prescriptive. The scope of syllabus is narrow. On the other hand, the scope of curriculum is wide. Set out by syllabus is for exam board and curriculum is for government or the administration of school, college or institute. Term, syllabus for a fixed term, normally a year, and curriculum is till the course lasts. Uniformity. The uniformity of syllabus varies from teacher to teacher. On the other hand, it is same for all teachers in curriculum. So guys, curriculum and syllabus are the terms of education imparted to the students by teachers. It means the knowledge, skills or qualifications that are passed on from one generation to another. A subject syllabus is a unit of the curriculum. The two terms differ in a sense that curriculum is a combination of some factors which helps in the planning of an educational program, whereas a syllabus covers the portion of what topics should be taught in a particular subject.